This is from the government release. You know, they have a long list of rules. They talk about conflicts of interest. They don't exclude members of unions that donate to anti-conservative attack ads. Most Canadian journalists are members of Unifor, or the Canada Media Guild. Unifor just rolled out this attack ad in recent weeks, so they're not banned. Government journalists like Rosemary Barton, that's not considered a conflict of interest. Government journalists from foreign countries, like Putin's Russia, Ukraine, Vietnam, all of them are specifically approved by Trudeau's Debates Commission. Seriously, it's our task. Huge Russian news agency owned by Vladimir Putin. They're accredited, but not Canadian grassroots media who rely on crowdfunding and help people with lawyers. What? Here's what they say about us. It was literally written to keep us and only us out. They use the word CAJ, and I'll come back in a minute to tell you what that means because it's interesting. But here's what they say. This is from Trudeau's hand-picked Debates Commission, and I quote, "According to the CAJ, there is a conflict of interest when an organization becomes an actor in the story it tells, including providing and applying financial and legal assistance to some of its sources to work toward a desired outcome, or offering free legal services, crowdfunds to help some individuals in stories hire lawyers, purchases political advertising and launches petitions, or when a reporter writes opinion pieces about subjects they also cover as journalists, endorses political candidates or causes, takes part in demonstrations, signs petitions, does public relations work, fundraises, and makes financial contributions." Okay, right off the bat, this would obviously disqualify Rosemary Barton and the CBC, who used CBC resources to sue the Conservative Party in her feud with them last election. That's working towards a desired outcome. That's legal stuff. Obviously, those foreign government media break this rule too. But it's a weird rule, that legal thing, that crowdfunding thing. What does crowdfunding civil liberties lawyers have to do with covering a federal election? We've crowdfunded civil liberties lawyers for over 2,200 Canadians now, I think you know. And we do not discriminate between conservatives or liberals or NDPers. We don't even ask. We don't even care. We don't ask people their race or their religion or anything. Working with a registered charity, we crowdfund civil liberties lawyers for people. How on earth is that even relevant as a reason for keeping our reporters out of a room where the media gather to watch a political debate? What's that got to do with that? And what about this part? Writes opinion pieces about subjects they also cover as journalists, endorse political candidates or causes. That's every single opinion journalist in Canada. That's Rosemary Barton, obviously. That's every newspaper. Every newspaper in Canada makes editorial endorsements. The other journalists on the debate panel, Evan Solomon, Mercedes Stevenson, they express opinions on the news all the time. I happen to like those two reporters, actually. Mercedes has strong opinions about the military and veterans. I like her opinions, by the way. But it's a laugh to think that they would actually keep our journalists out because of our opinions, but they got around that in a sneaky way. How do they let their journalists in with opinions? Well, any journalist who is already part of Trudeau's parliamentary press gallery is exempt for that reason alone. Let me quote. "Any media representative who is a member of the Canadian Parliamentary Press Gallery would automatically be eligible for accreditation. Upon review of the Canadian Parliamentary Press Gallery's membership requirements, the Commission has determined that it will accredit members of the Canadian Parliamentary Press Gallery. This is because they cover Canadian politics as a regular part of their activity, and the Canadian Parliamentary Press Gallery has published a white paper which recognizes the principles of responsible and ethical journalism, including the absence of conflict of interest as defined by the CAJ and other journalism and professional media organizations." Okay, but we at Rebel News cover news and politics regularly, and the weird test I just read to you about not having political opinions, that's clearly not the rule at the Parliamentary Press Gallery. I mean, if you scroll through these names of the Parliamentary Press Gallery, you can see plenty of opinion journalists in there. David Aiken, Joan Bryden, Susan Delacourt, John Ibbotson, John Iveson. Iveson actually has a whole opinion book about Trudeau. He wrote a pro-Trudeau book in the last election. But since he has the right opinions, he wasn't prosecuted for it by Elections Canada, and he's not banned from the debates. Carl Narenberg, he writes for a hard left-wing union propaganda rag called Rabble.ca. Althea Raj, she wrote a loving book about Trudeau. She's his official biographer. So they're brought in by this weird rule that you can't have any opinions, you can't endorse candidates unless you're a member of Trudeau's Parliamentary Press Gallery. Now, I'm not sure why opinion journalists should be excluded from the elections at all. Anyway, why would that make sense? Opinion journalism is obviously a form of journalism. It's just weird, but it would obviously keep out half the journalists on Parliament Hill, so they just exempt them all by saying if you're already in Trudeau's press gallery, you're fine, even foreign state broadcasters. But if you're not already on Trudeau's friends list, you're not allowed to have editorial opinions, and just in case that doesn't stop us, you're not allowed to be involved with someone who uses crowdfunding to help poor people afford civil liberties lawyers because reasons. No, there's only one reason here. They're afraid of being asked real questions, and so they've tried to draft this in a way to ban Rebel News and Rebel News only. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.